So we had The Book Whisperer, Awakening the Reader in Every Child by myself, Abby Soupy, and Sydney Rich for this project.
Teachers all have different things that they're passionate about. We're passionate about books and reading. Other teachers are passionate about planets and sea turtles or math and all kinds of different things. Every elementary teacher is not going to be the book whisperer. But every kid needs to have someone every single year in their life that loves books more than anything. And that's what we can have if our schools have amazing certified librarians in their schools. They can have that person who loves books. They won't have to go a whole year, because a kid cannot afford to go a whole year without someone in their life that loves books. When kids are in my classroom, they're going to be with someone for a year that loves books. But the next year they might be with their teacher, might love something else. And that's great because they get to be exposed to people who are passionate about different things. But a kid needs someone in their life every year to show them how important reading is.
And to springboard off of that, also we invest a lot of time in building our knowledge of children's and young adult literature, but not every teacher has the ability to be able to do that. But librarians may be the only people in the school who are formally trained in collection development and current trends in children's and young adult literature. But even beyond the book access, which is of course the piece that we're focusing in on, we're also in an age where we need information literacy, critical literacy skills, the need to access texts online and in print. And also we know that books foster empathy. I can look at my Facebook page and tell you, we need more empathy. We need more critical literacy skills. I think we need our librarians more than we ever have.
So the problem that this book shows is, how do we get students to become avid readers? Donalyn Miller, who you saw in the video, she is a 6th grade language arts and social studies teacher in Texas. And this book reflects on her own struggles and successes in her classroom. And she's doing it to help educators with the question that I had previously said. It's, how do we get students to become avid readers? So throughout this book, she shares stories and student examples for us to look at, pretty much figuring out throughout her own classroom how she got students to become such avid readers, and how she made her students who hated reading in the beginning of the year absolutely love it by the end of the year.
So some of the questions that this book brought up was, how do teachers affect students' motivation to read? What causes students to not be motivated to read? And how can students be encouraged to read more?
The purpose is that one of the most important concepts is changing individuals' attitudes about reading. Not only is it important for our students and ourselves, but showing others the why it is important to be excited about reading. And in some cases, reading can change someone's life. Emphasizing how important students' answers and opinions are. Many times students will answer questions based off of what they think the teacher wants to hear. We need to make students aware that there's no wrong answers when sharing their opinions on books or how they feel about certain topics. Individualized instruction or for different levels of readers is also very important.
So some information that we gathered that was really important from this whole book was the different use of strategies that Donalyn Miller uses to get students excited about reading on their own. So one of them was book reports. And normally when we think of book reports, we think of the class being assigned one novel or one unit of study with a book, and they have to write a book report on it. And like Sydney said, the students are kind of answering questions that they think they answer the questions based off of how they think the teacher wants them to be answered. So when we say book reports in our project, we're meaning that she assigned a book to students, not even necessarily a specific book, but a content style of book or a specific genre, and students wrote a book report on that and their own opinion on it, almost like one that you would find if you were looking up a book online, that kind of book report. So it allowed students to reflect on the book and give their honest opinion if they liked it or if they didn't. And again, it wasn't a specific book, but just a book in a specific genre or something like that. She had students journal as well. So again, going along with the books, she pulled each journals every single week. So she was able to see the growth in the students in a formative assessment matter. And she also kept her own journal. So that way students could see how it was modeled, not necessarily what she wanted from the journal, but just a brief overview of what they had to have in their journals, kind of like what we did with our PLC journals. And again, they heard the teacher's opinions on their books. So she shared if she did or didn't like a book and why she didn't or didn't like it, if she had to put a book aside. And then she took recommendations from her students as well. And students got very excited about that because they actually realized like, oh, my teacher wants to understand why I didn't or didn't like this book. She also had a 40 book minimum requirement for the students to read by the end of the year. That requirement differed a little bit. If it was a novel, I believe over 250 pages or around 300 pages, she counted it for more than one book. But again, it required students to actually want to read. And again, within that 40 book minimum, she did have X many books in a specific genre, stuff like that. That way students weren't picking children's books that would take 2 days and they could get the requirement done. So that was just a couple things that we pulled, that the strategies and different activities that we found that were really important. Again, this is all firsthand information from her classroom as well. All right, so some assumptions that the author makes and that we made while we were reading. She makes assumptions about other teachers' motivation to teach reading, and some of it was what she did her first couple years in teaching, and some assumptions is what she saw from her peers and coworkers. And she said that they're not excited about the content that they're teaching. They're simply teaching it because that's what the curriculum says to teach, or they're teaching it because that's what it's going to be on state testing. So students were not excited to read because they knew that it was just content that was being pushed on them. We believe that there needs to be a lot of individualized instruction when it comes to reading, especially in young students. Again, we want to start young with getting them excited and finding those reading difficulties that they may have. So individualized instruction can help out with that. And when students see that we're excited about what we are teaching, their excitement will elevate in their learning. So again, if they see we're excited, they see that we're involved, they're going to be more excited and more involved, and not just, oh, I have to learn this because this is what she's teaching, but she's very excited about it, so I'm going to be excited about learning it.
So there's a bunch of important concepts that came from this book, but some of the ones that we pulled out are that the way teachers view reading is deeply affects their students. This creates two types of readers: inferent readers and aesthetic readers. Teachers who take the inferent approach to reading see reading as an activity that allows the readers to acquire knowledge, but teachers who take the aesthetic approach to reading see readers as a set of skills that must be mastered and processes that need to be tuned to be able to collect information. Teachers who take the aesthetic approach have the greatest influence on their students' motivation and interest to read, as well as have a greater impact on their students' long-term reading habits. Another important concept is that not every student is going to be interested in one book. By allowing students to read their own books, it increases their motivation to learn and their reading skills. It is vital that everything about reading is positive. She, in this book, kind of flipped a few terms around. So instead of struggling readers, she called those readers developing readers. And developing readers are readers who need to spend more time reading, practicing, getting better with their peers to continue getting better. This will help them lessen the gap. The next one that she identifies is doormat readers. These readers perform well on tests and do well in their classes, but they do not find joy in reading outside of school. The next set of readers is underground readers. These students are gifted readers, but they see reading, but the reading that they are asked to do in schools and as completely disconnected from the reading they prefer to do on their own. They want to read for the teacher, or they want to read for the teacher, but get it out of the way.
So the author's point of view in this book is she believes that reading should be put into the hands of the students rather than at the discretion of the teachers. And our point of view, we agree with the author. In order for students to be successful and enjoy reading, they should be given the freedom to choose what books they read and how they read so that they can become more successful readers in the future. To conclude, you should share your own experiences with your students in your own reading journey, as well as be excited about reading, both for your personal reading and your students' reading, just to foster an environment in your classroom that students will enjoy to read and they'll want to read more.
Right, and that is just our citation for the book that was on the last slide. But again, this was a super important book that I think we all really enjoyed, being elementary and then Abby being in special education as well. Just kind of helped us realize some things that we probably never would have thought about, because I think in each of our discussions that we held every week, we kind of just talked about a couple little things that we saw teachers do that we would have never seen, especially with the author being a 6th grade teacher. So she kind of started this a little bit later in the students' schooling, but she also made notes that eventually when students got used to it, they never walked anywhere without a book. There were pictures in the book that showed students waiting to go on a field trip and they were all sitting there reading. And that was not her telling them, okay, you have a moment, let's read. It was, oh wait, I have time to do something instead of sitting here, I'm going to read. So again, just fostering that open environment like Abby talked about was really important. And I think it is a great book for all of us to have, especially if we want to teach reading and go into it. Again, just fostering that environment, how to make students excited about reading and actually want to become avid readers. So I think that is it.
Thank you for listening. Bye.